Growing up, my brother wasn't just a sibling, he was a force of chaos disguised as family. From the moment we could walk, it was clear he resented me for existing. He'd sabotage my school projects, spread lies to our parents to get me punished, and even stole my first girlfriend just to prove he could, but nothing compared to what he did later. I spent years believing I'd escaped his shadow, built a life far from his toxicity. Then he reappeared, oozing fake charm, and my wife fell for it. The night I found out she was pregnant with his child was the night I realized hell wasn't a place. It was something you carried inside you forever. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was a slow poison, dripped into my marriage with calculated precision. He'd drop by when I was working late, comfort her after our fights, and play the hero while painting me as distant. I missed the signs because I'd spent a lifetime dismissing his games as petty jealousy. But this was his masterpiece. The pregnancy test on the bathroom counter, her tearful confession, "It just happened," felt like a script he'd written years ago. The worst part, he didn't even gloat. He acted sorry, like some tragic figure caught in fate's cruel web. But I knew better. This was his endgame, to own every piece of my life, even the ones I'd fought to keep from him. Confronting him was useless. He spun it like I drove them together, my neglect, my temper, my failures as a husband, and she believed him. The way she looked at me, like I was the villain in their love story, shattered whatever was left of us. I moved out, but the nightmares followed. Visions of him raising my child, rewriting my past, erasing me from my own future. Friends urged therapy, legal action, anything, but how do you fight someone who's spent a lifetime weaponizing your pain? He'd won, or so I thought. Then the text came, "We need to talk. It's about the baby." For the first time, his words carried fear. And that's when I knew the game wasn't over yet. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and dread. She sat alone, hollow-eyed, clutching paperwork, no ring on her finger, no brother in sight. There were complications, she whispered. The baby wasn't his, the dates didn't add up. The paternity test was a grenade he'd tried to bury, but fate had other plans. For once, his lies had consequences. The guilt in her voice was suffocating, but all I felt was cold clarity. He'd gambled with lives, hers, mine, an innocent child's, just to wound me. And now he'd vanished, leaving her to clean up the wreckage. The irony was brutal. The monster who'd haunted me was finally exposed, but the cost was a life neither of us could undo. The silence in that hospital room was deafening. She wouldn't look at me, her fingers trembling around the edge of the paternity report like it might burn her. He knew, she finally said, voice breaking. He knew it wasn't his, and he still let me believe. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The realization hit me like a truck. My brother hadn't just wanted to ruin my marriage, he wanted to break her too. This wasn't about stealing my life anymore. It was about proving he could destroy anything I loved and walk away unscathed. I should have felt rage. I should have stormed out, tracked him down, and made him pay. But all I felt was exhaustion. Because the sickest part, I almost admired the cruelty of it. He'd turned betrayal into an art form. I didn't go home that night. I drove to the shitty dive bar where he used to drink, half hoping I'd find him there, smirking over a whiskey like some untouchable villain. But the stool where he always sat was empty. The bartender recognized me, slid a glass across the counter without asking. "Haven't seen him in weeks," he said, like he already knew why I was there. I drank until the room blurred, replaying every moment, every sign I'd ignored. The way he'd accidentally brush her arm when he thought I wasn't looking, the jokes about how I didn't deserve her, even the way he'd convinced our parents she was too good for me. It was all part of the plan. And like an idiot, I'd handed him the blueprint to my own destruction. She called me 3 days later, crying, apologizing, begging. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she kept saying, like that changed anything. I wanted to hate her. I tried to hate her, but all I could think about was how perfectly he'd played us both. He'd studied her insecurities, her loneliness, the cracks in our marriage, and slipped right through them. And now she was just another casualty in his war. I told her I needed time to think, time to breathe, time to decide if I could ever look at her again without seeing him. But the truth, I already knew the answer. Some stains don't wash out. The first anonymous message came a week later, a grainy photo of my brother outside a motel with a woman who wasn't my wife, then another, and another, each one time-stamped after he'd supposedly disappeared. At first, I thought it was some twisted attempt at revenge. But the messages kept coming, each one more damning than the last. Hotel receipts, phone, records, proof he'd been lying long before he ever touched my life. That's when I realized someone else wanted him exposed just as badly as I did. The question was who and what they expected me to do about it. I followed the trail to a rundown apartment complex on the edge of town. The woman who answered the door looked exhausted, a toddler clinging to her leg. "You're his brother," she said, not a question. She'd been expecting me. Inside, the walls were papered with court documents, custody battles, restraining orders. Turns out, I wasn't the only one he'd ruined. She'd been his first victim, his practice run. "He does this," she said, handing me a file thick with police reports. "Gets inside people's lives, tears them apart, then vanishes when it gets hard." Her hands shook as she spoke. "The baby. It wasn't the first time he's done this." The file was a horror story. At least 3 other women, 2 more kids he'd abandoned, lawsuits, evictions, even a warrant for unpaid child support in another state. All this time, I'd thought his hatred was reserved for me. But the truth was worse. He didn't hate me. I was just practice. A stepping stone to perfecting his real talent, destroying lives for sport. The woman Lisa watched me red, her eyes hollow. "He'll come back," she whispered. "They always forgive him. They always believe him." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about making sure there was nothing left for him to come back to. I left Lisa's apartment with a fire in my chest I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just about me anymore. There were kids involved in his lives, tangled in his web. I drove straight to my parents' house, the file burning a hole in my passenger seat. They needed to see who their golden child really was. But when I slammed the papers down on their kitchen table, my father barely glanced at them. "We know," he said quietly. My mother turned away, tears in her eyes. That was the moment I realized the deepest betrayal of all they'd always known. They'd covered for him, paid his debts, smoothed things over, because confronting him would mean admitting they'd raised a monster. And that was a truth too heavy for them to carry. The confrontation with my parents broke something in me that couldn't be fixed. I stopped returning my wife's calls, changed my number, deleted social media. If the world wanted to protect him, then I wanted no part of it. But Lisa wouldn't let me disappear. She started showing up at my job, my gym, leaving notes under my windshield wipers. "He's back in town," one read. "He's staying at the Sunset Motel," said another. At first I ignored her. What good would seeing him do? But the notes kept coming, more urgent each time. Then, one rainy Tuesday night, she called from a blocked number. "He's got another girl pregnant," she hissed. "Meet me there, or live with the guilt." The line went dead before I could respond. The Sunset Motel was the kind of place people went to die slowly. Peeling paint, flickering neon, the stench of mildew and regret. Lisa waited in the parking lot, her face gaunt under the yellow streetlight. "Room 214, she said, thrusting a keycard into my hand. "He's got her in there right now." I didn't ask how she'd gotten it. Didn't ask why she cared. Maybe she saw this as her shot at justice. Maybe she just couldn't stand to be the only one drowning while he kept breathing. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my pulse roaring in my ears. For the first time in months, I felt awake. The door swung open before I could knock. A girl couldn't have been more than 22 stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Behind her, my brother lounged on the bed, shirtless, smirking at his phone, like this was just another Tuesday. When he saw me, he didn't even flinch. "Took you long enough," he drawled. The girl looked between us, confused. "You know him?" she asked. He laughed, that same laugh that had haunted me since childhood. "Oh, we go way back," he said, stretching like a cat. "This is the guy I told you about. The one who always needs to play the hero." I saw it then, the way his fingers twitched toward her wrist, possessive, controlling. She didn't even realize. She was already his prisoner. Something in me snapped. I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall so hard the mirror cracked. The girl screamed. Lisa materialized in the doorway, phone recording. My brother's eyes went wide, not with fear, but delight. "There he is," he choked out, grinning through the pain. "I knew you had it in you." That's when I understood. This was what he wanted. For me, to lose control, to become him. My hands shook. The girl was sobbing. Lisa's voice cut through the chaos. "The police are on their way." I let him go. He crumpled to the floor, laughing through bloody teeth. Too late, he wheezed. She's already mine. The cops found the drugs in his duffel bag, meth pills, enough to put him away for years. They cuffed him right there in that filthy motel room, his smirk finally fading when he realized Lisa had planted them. You bitch, he spat as they dragged him out. She just smiled. Funny, she said. That's exactly what your last girlfriend called me. The girl Emily. Her name was Emily. Sat, shell-shocked, on the bed, clutching a positive pregnancy test like a grenade with the pin pulled. I should have felt victorious, but all I could think was, how many more are out there? The trial was a circus. 3 more women came forward. 2 more kids. My parents sat in the back row every day, their faces carved from stone. My wife's wife now sent me a letter. She'd miscarried. The baby wasn't mine, wasn't his. Some cosmic joke. I didn't write back. When the judge sentenced him to 8 years, the courtroom erupted. Lisa cried. Emily vomited in the hallway. My brother just winked at me as they led him away. See you soon, he mouthed. And I knew this wasn't over. It would never be over. I moved across the country, changed my name, bought a gun. Lisa calls sometimes, drunk, whispering that he's got people on the outside watching her. I send her money but never ask for details. Some nights, I still hear his laugh in my dreams. Some nights, I wonder if I'll be there when they let him out. Waiting. The funny thing, after everything, I still can't decide if I'll hug him or put a bullet in his skull. Maybe both. Maybe that's what family really means. Last week, a letter arrived with no return address. Just 2 words in his jagged handwriting. Miss me. I burned it in the sink. The ashes swirled like confetti. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Somewhere, he was smiling. Somewhere, another girl was falling for the lie. And me. I was just the ghost he left behind. They say living well is the best revenge. But they've never met my brother. I don't live well. I don't live at all. I just wait. Because prisons have visiting hours, and graves don't.